She leaves your message unanswered for 6 hours, then randomly brings up a small detail you mentioned 3 weeks earlier. And that's usually the moment most men get confused, because attraction doesn't always appear warm. Sometimes it shows up as distant, controlled, even cold. And the dangerous part? The colder she seems, the more obsessed she could actually be. Not every time, but when a woman is deeply emotionally affected by you, she often becomes extremely self-aware around you. And people don't become cold when they feel nothing. They become cold when they feel too much. That's the part nobody really talks about. See, when someone truly doesn't care, their behavior is easy, calm, neutral, predictable. But when a woman is secretly emotionally invested, her behavior becomes inconsistent. She pulls back after getting close, acts detached after an intense conversation, takes forever to respond, yet somehow watches your story immediately. She becomes emotionally unavailable the moment things start feeling real, because now she has something to lose. And most men completely misunderstand this. They assume attraction should always feel obvious, gentle, consistent, effortless. But genuine emotional tension rarely feels effortless. Sometimes the woman who likes you the most is the one who's struggling with herself the hardest. You notice it in subtle moments, like when she acts uninterested in a group, but suddenly becomes attentive once another woman enters the picture. That shift matters because indifference doesn't compete, emotion does. And pay attention when you pull your focus away from her. If her energy suddenly changes, she starts posting more, finds random excuses to text you, becomes unusually sarcastic or dismissive, that's not random behavior, that's emotional reaction. A woman who feels nothing usually stays emotionally stable, but the obsession creates turbulence, and turbulence always leaks out in strange ways. Sometimes she becomes colder right after a genuinely good moment between you. That confuses men the most. You have an incredible conversation, there's connection, chemistry, eye contact, tension. Then the next day, she becomes distant, gives short replies, dry energy, almost like she regrets the whole interaction. But she doesn't regret it. She felt exposed by it. There's a difference. When someone starts emotionally attaching to you, they suddenly realize how much influence you now have over their emotions. And that realization scares people, especially those who are used to protecting themselves. That's why some women become colder once intimacy begins building, not because the attraction disappeared, but because it became real, and reality creates vulnerability. There's another sign almost nobody notices. She remembers your patterns before you even realize she's paying attention. Your mood shifts, your habits, the phrases you constantly repeat, the tiny changes in your energy. You casually mention you haven't been sleeping well, and 3 days later she indirectly asks about it while pretending it's casual. That's emotional tracking. People only study what emotionally matters to them. And here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes a woman acts cold because she's trying to regain control of herself around you, especially if you make her feel emotionally overwhelmed. You'll notice it when her words and actions constantly contradict each other. She says she's busy, but keeps restarting conversations. She acts detached, yet watches everything you do. She pretends not to care, yet subtly reacts whenever your attention shifts elsewhere. That contradiction matters because people rarely become emotionally inconsistent unless there's internal conflict happening underneath the surface. And attraction creates internal conflict, especially intense attraction. There's a reason emotionally affected people become unpredictable. Their logic and emotions stop working together. A guy once explained this perfectly. He said there was a girl at work who barely spoke to him directly, always composed, professional, almost cold. But anytime he talked to another female coworker, her entire energy shifted. She would suddenly join the conversation, make sarcastic remarks, become unusually engaged, then disappear again. That's not emotional neutrality. That's emotional awareness hiding behind control. And the strongest sign? She creates distance but never completely leaves. That's the detail most men miss. A woman who genuinely wants nothing to do with you slowly removes herself entirely. No emotional reactions, no monitoring, no tension, no invisible pull. But a woman who's secretly obsessed often stays psychologically connected while pretending to disconnect physically. She keeps the thread alive, a random reaction, an unexpected message, a subtle appearance in your orbit right when you stop focusing on her. because emotionally attached people struggle with silence, especially when the attachment feels unresolved. And unresolved attraction is powerful. It keeps people awake, replaying conversations, overanalyzing tone, wondering if they revealed too much, checking your activity without even realizing they're doing it. Cold behavior can sometimes be a mask for emotional chaos, and the irony is, the women who feel the deepest often try the hardest not to show it, because showing emotion feels dangerous. So instead, they control, withdraw, delay replies, act unaffected. But emotional suppression always has cracks, and if you watch closely long enough, those cracks eventually reveal themselves. In the way she looks at you when she thinks you're distracted, in the sudden mood change when another woman gets your attention, in how she emotionally disappears, then quietly returns before the connection completely fades. Because obsession rarely looks smooth, it looks conflicted. And this is where most men ruin the situation. They panic, they chase harder, demand reassurance, try to force clarity too soon.